The city at night was covered in silence, but deep inside the industrial district, one building always carried whispers. It was not a factory, not a market, but a shelter, an alien adoption shelter, a place where no laughter was heard, only quiet cries and the sound of doors locking behind frightened children who had no homes. The human walked through the metal gates of the shelter with slow steps. His boots echoed against the steel floor, as if each step disturbed the silence of the place. He had heard stories about this shelter, stories that no one wanted to believe. It was said to be a home for the forgotten, a grave for the living, where children of many alien species were left behind because no one wanted them. Inside, the air was cold. The lights flickered weakly, and the walls carried scratches as if someone had tried to escape once but failed. The man looked around and saw long rows of glass chambers. Behind each glass wall sat children of different shapes, sizes, and colors, some with glowing eyes, some with scales, some with wings folded tightly around them. All of them looked broken, empty, and hopeless. The caretakers moved without emotion. They had grown used to this sadness, as if it no longer touched them. For them, these children were just files, just names on paper, nothing more. As the human walked slowly, he felt his chest grow heavy. He had never seen such sadness collected. In one place, children were meant to laugh, to run, to play. But here, no one played. No one laughed. They only stared at the floor as if waiting for the end. Then his eyes stopped. In the corner of the last row was a small chamber, darker than the others. The glass here was cracked on the edges, and the lights inside flickered even weaker. There, on the cold floor, sat a girl. She was not like the others. Her skin had a faint silver glow, but it looked pale as if life was leaving it. Her hair fell over her face, hiding her eyes, and her small arms were wrapped around her knees. She looked so fragile, so thin, as if even a whisper could break her. The caretaker noticed the man staring and came closer. "You don't want that." "One," the caretaker said quickly, lowering his voice. "She's been here too long. Nobody asks for her. They say she is cursed." The man turned to him. "Cursed." The caretaker nodded. "Every family that tried to take her returned her within days. Strange things happen around her. Lights break, machines fail, nightmares spread in the house. The last family swore they saw shadows move by themselves. She's different, dangerous." The human looked back at the girl. She had not moved. She did not even look up. It was as if she had given up on being noticed, as if she had already accepted that no one would ever take her hand. But then it happened. As the man placed his hand against the glass wall of her chamber, the girl slowly lifted her head. For the first time, he saw her eyes. They were glowing, dim but deep, like stars buried under storm clouds. Eyes that carried endless sadness, but also a question of why. Why had the universe left her alone? Why had no one ever stayed? The man's heart tightened. He felt something unexplainable inside him, something that no words could capture. This was not pity, it was not curiosity. It was a pull, a connection, as if the moment their eyes met, some invisible thread tied his soul to hers. The caretaker shook his head nervously. "Sir, listen to me. That child is not for you. She is trouble, will only bring you pain." But the man did not move his hand away. Instead, he whispered softly, almost to himself, "She looks sadder than anyone I have ever seen." Caretaker sighed, frustrated. Sadness is all she knows. She talks, she doesn't smile, she just exists. "Believe me, you will regret it if you choose her." The man did not answer. He kept his eyes on the girl. She blinked once, and then slowly she pressed her small hand against the other side of the glass. Her fingers were trembling, her skin glowing faintly against the cold barrier. The world outside the chamber seemed to vanish in that moment. It was only the two of them. One broken child and one human who could not look away. He felt his decision forming inside him like fire spreading through dry wood. He could not explain why. He did not know her past, did not know her dangers. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. She did not deserve to be alone any longer. The man turned to the caretaker. His voice was firm, steady. I want her. The caretaker's face went pale. You don't understand what you're asking for. This is not like adopting a normal child. She is, I said. The man interrupted, his voice colder this time. I want her. The caretaker hesitated, then shook his head. Fine. But don't say we didn't warn you. Nobody lasts with her. Nobody. As the papers were brought forward, the man signed them without a second thought. Had his name inked beside hers on the document, a bond written on paper, but sealed in something far deeper. When the chamber door opened, the girl did not move. She stayed curled on the floor, as if she did not believe freedom was possible. The man bent down, his voice low but gentle. Come, you don't have to stay here anymore. Slowly, shakily, she lifted her head again. Her eyes searched his face, as if trying to see if this was another trick, another cruel game. But when she saw the steady calm in his eyes, she moved. Step by step, she crawled forward, her bare feet dragging against the cold floor until she reached the doorway. And when she crossed it, she collapsed into his arms. The human held her tightly, feeling her small frame shake with silent sobs. She clung to his shirt, her tears soaking into the fabric. She did not speak. She did not thank him. She only cried, as if the weight of her loneliness was finally breaking. The caretakers looked on in silence. They had seen many adoptions before, but never one like this. They whispered to each other, betting how long before she was returned again. But the man ignored them. He carried her out of the chamber, step by step, like someone carrying the most precious thing in the universe, and as the doors of the shelter closed behind them, one thought echoed in his mind. She is mine now. No matter what happens, I will never let her go. The human stepped out of the shelter, carrying the little alien girl in his arms. The night was cold, the wind sharp, but the child felt even colder against his chest. She did not move. She did not speak. She only held onto his shirt as if her life depended on it. Her small body trembled, her breath shallow, and her glowing eyes were half closed, as if she did not believe she was really free. Behind them, shelter doors closed with a heavy metallic thud, almost like a warning. The caretakers did not smile. They only watched him leave, shaking their heads, whispering to each other. Another fool, one of them said. We will return her in less than a week. They always do. Or maybe even sooner, another added. The girl is cursed. One can live with her. The man heard their voices, but he did not turn back. He had made his choice. Whatever they said, whatever they believed, none of it mattered. He had seen her eyes. He had felt that invisible connection, and he knew deep. Inside, she was meant to be with him. The journey home was quiet. The transport ship hummed as it cut through the dark skies, its lights glowing faintly over the city below. The man sat in the back seat, with the girl still in his arms. He did not place her down, not even once. Every time the ship shook slightly, she pressed her face against his chest as if she feared the world would take her away again. The pilot, an old alien with long silver horns, kept looking back in the mirror. At first he said nothing, but finally curiosity won. You adopted that one? The pilot asked carefully. Yes, the man replied simply. The pilot gave a low whistle. Brave or foolish. Everyone in this city knows about her. Families tried before. They always brought her back. Said strange things happen around her. Lights breaking, nightmares, even sickness. I hope you know what you're doing. The man looked down at the child. She was asleep now, her small hand still gripping his shirt. Brushed a strand of silver hair away from her face. I know what I'm doing, he said softly. She needed someone, and I needed her. The pilot shook his head, muttering something under his breath. But he said no more. When they arrived at his small home on the edge of the city, the man carried her inside. The house was simple bare walls, a few old chairs, a kitchen that smelled faintly of metal. He had lived alone for years, with no laughter, no warmth, only silence. Now, as he set her gently on the couch, the silence felt different. For the first time, it felt like the house was waiting for something the girl did not explore. She did not look around. She sat on the couch with her knees pulled to her chest, staring at the floor. Her glowing eyes reflected the dim light of the room. The man crouched beside her. His voice was gentle, patient. "You're safe here. No one will hurt you. You don't have to be afraid." She did not reply. She only blinked slowly, her face unreadable. He went to the kitchen and returned. With a bowl of warm soup, placing it in her hands, he sat quietly beside her. She hesitated, staring at the bowl as if it was something unfamiliar, then slowly lifted it to her lips. The taste was simple, but it made her pause. She looked at him quickly, as if checking if it was truly for her, and continued drinking. When she finished, her eyes softened, just slightly. She whispered something in a language he could not understand. It was only one word, faint and shaky, but it carried weight. Like a secret, the man did not understand the word, but he understood the feeling. Gratitude, fear, hope, all mixed together. In that single sound, the next morning, rumors had already spread. Neighbors came to his door whispering warnings. "Why her? Do you not know who she is?" one asked. "She'll destroy your life." "You must take her back before it's too late," another insisted. Even his friends shook their heads. "Listen," one of them said, "you are a good man, but kindness will kill you. That girl is not normal. You cannot raise something that was abandoned by its own kind." But the human never argued. He only closed the door each time and returned to the girl who sat quietly in the corner of the room. Hugging her knees, every time he looked at her, he saw the same thing. Sadness so deep it felt endless. Every time, he felt the same fire. Inside him, the need to protect her, to give her something she had never been given before. Days passed. The girl did not speak much, but she stayed close to him, always watching. When he worked in the kitchen, she sat on the floor nearby. When he repaired his tools, she sat beside his chair. At night, she curled up on the couch while he slept on. The floor, refusing to leave her alone, but strange things began to happen. The lights flickered whenever she walked past them. Machines made odd noises, then stopped working entirely. Once, in the middle of the night, he woke to find her standing by the window, her eyes glowing brighter than ever, her small body shaking, as if fighting something unseen. When he called her name, she turned suddenly, her expression full of fear, then rushed into his arms. She clung to him, burying her face against his chest. He held her until she calmed down, whispering softly, "You are safe. You are not alone anymore." One evening, a group of neighbors gathered outside his home. They whispered loudly, hoping he would hear. "He must be insane," one said. No human can raise that child. "She will bring ruin," another muttered. "She does not belong here. She should have been left in the shelter." The man heard every word, but he did not step outside. Instead, he stayed with the girl, sitting beside her on the floor. She had heard the voices too. Her eyes filled with tears, and she hugged her. Knees tighter, he gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "They don't know you. They don't understand. But I do, and I promise I will not let them take you away." For the first time, she looked directly into his eyes. Something flickered there, something more than sadness, something fragile but real. Trust. It was the beginning of a bond that no one else could see. The world outside laughed, mocked, and doubted. But inside that small house, something extraordinary was quietly taking root. The human did not know what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain: he would never return her. No matter what happened, she was his daughter now, and in that moment, even the galaxy itself could not break that promise. The house had always been quiet before. For years, the human lived alone, surrounded only by silence. But after the little alien girl entered his life, the silence changed. It was no longer the calm silence of peace, but the heavy silence of something unknown. Something waiting. At first, he thought it was only adjustment. Child who had suffered so much needed time. She barely spoke, she ate little, and she often curled up on the couch with her knees pulled close, watching everything. Through those glowing eyes, he told himself it was normal, that patience would heal her. But soon, he began to notice things that could not be explained. The first incident was small. He was fixing a light in the kitchen when the girl walked past. As she moved, the bulb above his head flickered wildly, then shattered into pieces, falling across the floor. She did not flinch, did not scream. She only stared at the broken glass, her expression unreadable. "Did you do that?" he asked carefully. The girl said nothing. She only lowered her gaze as if ashamed. That night, he replaced the bulb. But deep inside, he felt something shift. The second incident came a few days later. The man was working on his old repair machine. It had been reliable for years, never once failing him. But as the girl entered the room, the machine suddenly made a loud screeching noise and stopped working entirely. Smoke rose from its wires. He opened the back, but every circuit inside was burned black. It was as if the machine had aged decades in a single second. The girl froze, staring at the smoke. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and her lips parted as if she wanted to say something, but no words came. The human touched her shoulder gently. "It's all right. Machines break. Don't be afraid." But he noticed her hands were trembling. As days passed, the strangeness grew stronger. At night, the house began to feel alive. Shadows seemed to move on the walls even when no light flickered. Doors creaked open without wind. Sometimes he woke in the middle of the night to find her standing at the window again. Her silver hair glowing in the moonlight, her small frame looked fragile, but her eyes burned with something powerful, something ancient. She whispered in her sleep, words from a language no translator could capture. The sound was haunting low, broken, filled with sorrow. One night he decided to sit awake and watch. The girl was curled on the couch, finally asleep. Hours passed. At midnight, the air in the house grew heavy, almost thick, and the lights dimmed by themselves. The girl stirred, her body twisting as if trapped in a nightmare. "Don't take me. Don't leave me again," she whispered in a voice not her own, deeper and stronger than her fragile frame should allow. The man rushed to her side, shaking her gently. "Wake up. You're safe. You're here with me." Her eyes snapped open, glowing brighter than ever. For a moment, he felt as if he was staring into the endless void of space itself. Then, just as suddenly, her glow faded, and she collapsed into his arms, exhausted. He held her close until her breathing calmed, whispering over and over, "You are safe. I won't leave you." The neighbors, however, were not blind. They began to notice strange flashes of light inside his house at night. They claimed to hear echoes, whispers, even when the street was empty. Rumors spread quickly. "That child is unnatural," one neighbor muttered. "She will bring ruin to him, and to all of us," another said. But the human ignored their voices. He did not see a monster. He did not see danger. He saw only a child who had suffered too much, carrying burdens far greater than any child should. One evening, while repairing another broken tool, he finally asked her directly, "Why do these things happen when you are near?" "Right." "Machines. The voices. Is it you?" The girl froze. She hugged her knees tightly, her glowing eyes fixed on the floor. Silence filled the room. Then, with a trembling voice, she whispered, "I didn't want it. I can't stop it." Her words were broken, as if every syllable cost her strength. "What is it you can't stop?" he asked gently. Her lips quivered. "The power. It hurts people. That's why they left me." The man felt his chest tighten. He finally understood this was the reason her kind had abandoned her, the reason the shelter staff called her. Cursed, she carried something inside her, something vast and uncontrollable. But instead of fearing her, he reached out and touched her hand. "You are not alone anymore. Whatever this power is, we will face it together for the first time." Her eyes widened. She searched his face, as if waiting for him to flinch, to step back, to show fear like everyone else had. But he did not. He only squeezed her small hand in his, firm and steady. A tear slipped down her cheek. And for the first time, she whispered a word in his language. One word. "Stay." The man's heart broke and healed at the same time. He smiled softly. Not going anywhere, but deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The power she carried was not something ordinary. It was bigger than his home, bigger than his city, maybe even bigger than the galaxy itself. And though he had promised never to leave her, he also understood that forces beyond his control would one day come looking for her. Still, as he watched her fall asleep that night, curled beside him with a faint smile on her lips, he made another silent promise: no matter what storms came, no matter who tried to take her away, he would fight the whole universe itself if he had to, for she was not a curse. She was not a danger. She was his daughter now, and nothing in the stars could change that. The storm came without warning. Sky turned black, thunder cracked like a broken drum, and rain hammered against the small house. The human sat near the window, watching water stream down the glass. He had lived through many storms before, but tonight felt different. The air was heavier, the silence inside deeper. The alien girl sat on the floor, knees tucked under her chin, her silver hair falling over her face. She stared at the flickering lights as if waiting for something. Every time thunder shook the walls, her small body trembled. The man moved closer. "Are you afraid?" he asked softly. She lifted her head slowly, her glowing eyes reflecting the storm outside. "Not of the thunder," she whispered. Her voice was stronger than before, though still broken. It was the first time she had spoken clearly in days. The man leaned forward, listening. Something in her tone carried weight, like secrets waiting to be revealed. "Then what are you afraid of?" he asked gently. Her lips trembled. She looked away, pressing her hands tightly together. For a long moment, she said nothing, only listening to the storm. Then, with a voice low and shaky, she finally answered, "Myself." The man's heart tightened. He sat beside her on the floor, waiting. He knew not to push, not to demand. She spoke, it would be because she trusted him. She kept her eyes on the rain as she continued. "I was not abandoned because I was weak. I was abandoned because I was strong. Too strong." Her words were strange, filled with pain. The human frowned. "Strong, but you—" She cut him off with a sudden burst of emotion. "I break things without touching them. I hear voices in my dreams. Shadows follow me. That is why no one wanted me. They said, I am dangerous. They said I should never have been born." Her voice cracked on the last word, and her small body shook with silent tears. The man reached out slowly, placing his hand on her shoulder. "You are not dangerous to me. You are just a child who needs someone to care." She turned to him then, and for the first time he saw her eyes fully open, glowing brighter than ever. They were not just eyes. They were like small stars trapped inside a fragile body, carrying endless light and endless sorrow. "You don't understand," she said. "My people, my kind, once ruled the stars. They were feared across the galaxy. Entire worlds bent to their will. But I was born wrong. Too much power, but no control. They said I would bring ruin. So they left me in that shelter to die." What? Her words sent a chill through him. He had always known there was something unusual about her, but this was bigger than anything he imagined. She was not only an abandoned child, she was the living secret of a mighty race. "And the power inside me," she whispered as waking. As she spoke, the lights in the room flickered wildly. The window glass rattled. The man felt the floor tremble faintly beneath them. The storm outside roared louder, as if answering her confession. But he did not move away. He did not let go. Instead, he wrapped his arms around her, pulling her trembling body close. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "We're not what they called you. You are not a curse. You are a child. My child. And no matter what power you hold, I will never let anyone take you away again." Her breathing hitched. She buried her face into his chest, her glowing eyes dimming slightly as tears stained his shirt. For the first time, she allowed herself to cry openly, not in silence, not hidden. "I don't want to hurt you," she whispered through sobs. "You won't," he replied, "because I will not let you face it alone." Later that night, when the storm grew quieter, the girl fell asleep against him. But the man remained awake, staring at the ceiling. Words echoed in his mind. A child from a race that once ruled the stars. Child feared by her own people, abandoned for being too strong. He had thought he was simply saving a lonely child. But now he realized he was protecting something far greater, something that could shake entire civilizations if discovered. Outside, the thunder faded, but deep inside, the man felt another kind of storm was beginning. The next morning, the girl awoke with swollen eyes from crying. She looked at him with a strange mix of fear and hope. "You still want me?" she asked softly, her voice breaking. He smiled gently. "I don't just want you. I need you. You are mine now, and nothing will change that." For the first time, a faint smile touched her lips. It was small, fragile, but real. In that moment, the truth behind her glowing eyes no longer felt like a curse. It felt like destiny. But destiny was never simple, because even as they sat together in the quiet morning light, far beyond their small home, whispers were spreading, ships were moving, beings were searching. Their secret was no longer safe, and soon the galaxy itself would come knocking on their door. The days after the storm were calm, almost a calm. The human tried to give the little alien girl a normal life, warm meals, quiet nights, small moments of laughter. She still spoke little, but sometimes when she felt safe, her lips curved into the smallest of smiles. For him, that was enough. But beyond the walls of his home, the galaxy had already started moving. Word had spread in whispers like fire crawling through dry grass. The lost child of a powerful race had been found, and where whispers traveled, hunters soon followed. It began with shadows in the sky. One evening, while fixing a loose panel on the roof, the man looked up and saw 3 small lights moving silently against the stars. They were not like ordinary ships. They moved too quickly, too smoothly, as if they were searching. His stomach tightened. He had seen such patterns before, hunters scanning from above. When he stepped back inside, he found the girl standing at the window. Her glowing eyes reflected the faint lights in the sky. She was trembling, though she tried to hide it. "They're coming," she whispered, almost too quietly to hear. "Who?" he asked, his voice tense. She turned to him slowly. "Who left me? The ones who fear me. They don't want me to live." That night, he prepared for the worst. He checked the doors, locked every window, and pulled out the old rifle he had kept hidden for years. It was not advanced compared to alien weapons, but it was something. The girl sat on the couch, hugging her knees, her small frame shaking. "They won't stop," she said. "They will take me or kill me." The man knelt in front of her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Not while I'm here. I won't let anyone touch you." Her glowing eyes searched his face. For a moment, she almost believed him. Almost. The attack came at dawn. The sound of engines shattered the quiet morning as 3 black ships descended over the city. Panic spread through the streets. Neighbors ran outside, pointing to the sky in fear. The hunters' ships landed with a heavy crash, their armored doors sliding open. Figures stepped out tall. Armored aliens with masks covering their faces, weapons glowing in their hands. Their movements were sharp, disciplined, merciless. "We're not here to talk." They were here to take. The man stood in the doorway of his small home, the rifle clutched tightly in his hands. The girl was behind him, trembling. One of the hunters stepped forward, his voice cold and commanding. "Human, you have something that does not belong to you. Give us the child." The man's grip tightened on his weapon. His heart pounded, but his voice was steady. "She belongs with me. She is under my protection." The hunter tilted his head slightly, amused. "Protection? You cannot protect even yourself? Step aside, or you will be destroyed." The man stood taller. "If you want her, you will have to go through me." The hunters laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the street. Neighbors peeked from behind doors and windows, shaking their heads to them. It looked hopeless. One human against trained hunters of a superior race. It was not a fight, it was suicide. But the man did not move. He did not waver. He stepped in front of the girl, shielding her with his body. His eyes locked on the enemies before him. The hunters raised their weapons. The glow of their rifles lit the street, humming with deadly energy. The girl gasped and gripped his arm. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "They'll kill you. Don't fight them." Turned his head slightly. just enough to look at her. Listen to me. I don't care who they are. I don't care how strong. You are my daughter now. No one will take you away. Tears filled her glowing eyes. She had never heard anyone say those words to her. The first shot came. A bolt of energy flew across the air, striking the ground near his feet. The blast shook the street, leaving a burning hole in the stone. The hunters were not joking. They were ready to kill. The man raised his rifle and fired back. The sound of gunfire cracked through the air. His weapon was weaker, slower, but his aim was true. The first hunter staggered back, his armor dented. From the impact, the others roared and opened fire. Energy bolts smashed into the walls, tearing chunks of stone and metal apart. The street filled with smoke and fire. The neighbors screamed and ran, slamming their doors shut, but through the chaos, the man did not move from his spot. He fought with everything he had, every shot fired not for himself, but for the small girl clinging to his back. And then something changed. The girl could not watch anymore. Her body shook violently, her hands pressed against her chest, as if something inside was tearing its way out. Her glowing eyes blazed brighter and brighter until they lit up the smoke-filled street. The hunters froze, their weapons lowering slightly in shock. The man turned to her, his eyes wide. "Stay back," shouted, but it was too late. The power inside her burst. A wave of invisible energy exploded from her small frame, slamming into the hunters like a storm. Their weapons flew from their hands, their armored bodies thrown across the street. Windows shattered, walls cracked, and the air itself seemed to tremble. The girl screamed not in anger, but in fear as the energy tore through everything around her. The man rushed forward, grabbing her hands. "Look at me. Focus on me. You are not alone. I'm here." Her glowing eyes locked onto his. Her breathing slowed, her shaking eased. Slowly, the wild energy bent itself, pulling back, shrinking into calm light. The hunters, groaning, crawled back to their feet, but now their eyes were wide with fear. They had seen the truth of what she was. She was not weak. She was not cursed. She was powerful beyond their understanding, and standing beside her was a human who would not give her up, no matter the cost. The hunters retreated quickly, dragging their injured with them. Their ships rose into the sky, vanishing into the clouds. But their departure was not the end. It was only the beginning, because now the galaxy knew the child was alive, and she was no longer hidden. The girl collapsed against the man, exhausted, her small body trembling. "I'm sorry," she whispered weakly. He held her tightly, his heart still racing. "Don't be sorry. You are not a curse. You are a miracle. And no matter who comes, I will fight for you." Her glowing eyes dimmed as she closed them, finally allowing herself to rest. And as the human carried her back inside, he knew the hunters would return. More would come, stronger, faster, deadlier. But so would he. Stronger, more determined, because she was not just a child. She was his child, and he would fight the entire galaxy if he had to. The street was still scarred from the battle. Burned walls, shattered glass, and black marks from alien weapons covered the neighborhood. The neighbors who had once whispered behind their doors now hid in silence, too afraid to even step outside. No one wanted to be near the house where the hunters had been defeated. Inside, the man carried the girl to the couch. She was pale, her small body trembling from exhaustion. Her glowing eyes had dimmed almost to nothing. She looked like a candle burning its last flame. "You need to rest," the man whispered, brushing her silver hair from her face. Her lips moved weakly. "I hurt you." He shook his head firmly. "No, you didn't hurt me. You saved me. You saved both of us." But deep inside, he knew it was not that simple. What he had witnessed on the street was not a normal outburst. It was power raw, wild, uncontrollable power, enough to crush soldiers, tear apart walls, and shake the air itself. And if it grew stronger, what then? That night, when the girl finally slept, the man stayed awake. He sat in the dark, staring. At the faint glow of her eyes, his mind raced with questions he could not answer. What was this power inside her? Could it be controlled? Or would it one day destroy her and everyone around her? But every time doubt touched his heart, he looked at her fragile frame, curled tightly, as if afraid even in sleep. She was not a weapon. She was not a monster. She was just a child, his child. And he swore to himself again, no matter what happened, he would help her find control, would not let the galaxy define her fate. The next morning, the girl woke with fear in her eyes. "They'll come back," she whispered. "More will come, stronger. They won't stop until I'm gone." The man crouched in front of her, steady and calm. "Then we will be ready. But I need you to trust me. And I need you to trust yourself." Her lips trembled. I can't control it. When I feel fear, it grows. When I feel anger, it explodes. I don't want to be like this." The man thought for a moment, then took her small hands into his. "Listen to me. Power is not the problem. Fear is. You have been told all your life that you were dangerous, that you were cursed, but they were wrong. You are more than your fear. You are more than what they called you." She stared at him, tears welling in her glowing eyes. "Then what am I?" He smiled faintly. "You are my daughter, and that is enough." Something flickered in her eyes at those words, something fragile but real. Hope dates passed, and the man began to teach her control, not with weapons or harsh drills, but with patience. When the lights flickered, he told her to breathe slowly and focus on his voice. When her hands trembled with hidden energy, he held them gently until they stilled. At night, when nightmares made her glow uncontrollably, he sat beside her, speaking calmly until her power faded. "You are not alone," he repeated every time. "Your power does not control you. You control it." At first she struggled. Emotions were storms, too wild, too strong. But slowly, she began to notice changes. The flickering lights lasted only a moment before she calmed them. The whispers in her dreams grew quieter when she held the man's hand. For the first time, she felt something she had never felt before: control. One evening, as the sun sank into the horizon, the man took her outside. The street was empty, abandoned since the attack. "I want you to try something," he said gently. Her eyes widened in fear. "What if I break everything again?" "Then we'll fix it together," he said simply. She hesitated, then nodded. "Close your eyes," he instructed. "Don't think of fear. Don't think of anger. Think of something good. Think of the first moment you felt safe." The girl closed her glowing eyes. Her small body trembled as she searched her memory. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, her lips curved into a faint smile. "I remember. When you touched the glass at the shelter," she whispered, "I felt hope." Her body glowed softly, not wild. Not violent, but calm. Warm, like a lantern in the dark. The air shimmered around her, but nothing broke. No windows shattered. No walls cracked. The man's chest tightened with pride. "Good, that's it. You see, it doesn't have to hurt. It doesn't have to destroy." The girl opened her eyes slowly, her glow dimmed, steady now under her control. For the first time, she smiled without fear, but the peace did not last long. The next night, ships appeared again in the distance, larger, this time their engines rumbling like thunder. The hunters had returned, and they had brought more. The man felt his heart race. He checked his rifle, though he knew it was useless against so many. The girl stood beside him, her small hand clutching his sleeve. Her glowing eyes burned with fear, but also determination. "They're coming for me," she whispered. He looked down at her, steady and calm. "Then let them come. You are not the same child they left in that shelter. And I am not the same man who walked in alone. Together we are stronger." The sound of ships grew louder. Shadows fell across the city as lights from the sky lit the streets. The girl closed her eyes again, her body glowing brighter. But this time her power did not explode wildly. It pulsed, steadily, controlled, alive. She had found the key: not anger, not fear, but love. The man reached for her hand. We faced them together. Her small fingers curled around his. Her glow intensified, spreading across the house, across the street, painting the darkness with light. For the first time, She did not fear her power. She embraced it, and in that moment, the galaxy shifted. The night sky glowed with the light of retreating ships. The hunters were gone for now, their shadows vanishing into the stars. The street was silent once again, but the silence was not peace. It was the heavy silence after a storm, the silence that warned of storms yet to come. Inside the house, the little alien girl sat curled on the couch, her silver hair damp with sweat, her glowing eyes dim. She was exhausted, her small body trembling from the power she had released. The human knelt beside her, brushing her hair gently away from her face. "You did well," he whispered. Her lips parted weakly. "I lost control." "Everything." He shook his head. "No, you saved us. You saved yourself, and you are learning. That is what matters." Her glowing eyes lifted to his, searching for any sign of fear, any sign of doubt. But all she saw was calm determination. "You're not afraid of me?" she asked softly. He smiled faintly. "No, I'm afraid of losing you. That's all." Her chest tightened at those words. No one had ever said such a thing to her. The days that followed were quiet but tense. The neighbors avoided the house now, whispering whenever they passed. Some believed the man was a fool for keeping the girl. Others feared she would bring ruin to them all. But the human ignored their voices. He cared only for the child who now followed him everywhere, her small hand always clutching his sleeve. Slowly she grew stronger. She began to control her glow, letting it rise and fade at will. She practiced with the man's guidance, learning how to calm her breathing, how to focus her energy. The fear that once ruled her began to fade, replaced by a fragile confidence. One evening, while the sun sank behind the horizon, she stood outside with him. Her small frame glowed faintly, steady. "In calm, see," he said gently. "You are not broken. You are learning. You are becoming stronger every day." She looked up at him, her lips trembling into the faintest smile. "Because of you?" The man's chest tightened with pride. "Because of us," he corrected softly. But peace could not last forever, far beyond the city, far beyond the planet. Powerful eyes had seen what happened. The hunters had reported their failure. And those who once ruled the stars, the girl's own people, now knew she was alive. To them, she was not a child. She was a threat. A key to power, to dangerous, to be left free. Ships were already moving, larger and deadlier than before. The galaxy was preparing to claim her. The man knew this. He saw it in the way the sky sometimes flickered with distant lights, in the way rumors spread through the city. He knew they would return. And he knew the fight would be greater than anything they had faced so far. But he was no longer the lonely man who once walked into a shelter with nothing. He was a father now. He was ready. One night, the girl woke from a dream, her glowing eyes wide with fear. She clutched his arm tightly, her voice trembling. "They will come again," she whispered. "They will never stop. What if they take me? What if they kill you?" The man pulled her into his arms, holding her close. "Listen to me. Whatever comes, we face it together. They will not take you, and they will not kill me, because we are stronger than they think." Her small hands clung to his shirt. "But I'm still afraid." He kissed the top of her head gently. "It's all right to be afraid. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is standing even when you are afraid. And you, little one, are the bravest soul I've ever known." Glowing eyes softened, tears spilling silently down her cheeks. For the first time, she believed his words. The final test came at dawn. The sky split open as massive ships descended, their engines roaring like thunder. The ground trembled as waves of soldiers poured out, armored and armed, their weapons glowing. This was no hunting party. This was an army. The man stood at the doorway of his small home, rifle in hand. The girl stood beside him, glowing brighter. "Then ever they're here," she whispered. He nodded calmly. "Yes, but so are we," the soldiers shouted, demanding her surrender. Their commander stepped forward, his voice booming. "Child of the Starborn, you belong to us. Come now, or we will burn this city to ashes." The girl trembled. For a moment, her fear returned, but then she felt the man's hand squeeze hers firmly. She looked up at him and he nodded. "Remember," he whispered, "you are not alone. Focus on me." Her glowing eyes burned brighter, her fear melting into determination. The power inside her surged. Not wild this time, not uncontrollable, but steady, alive. Awakened, the ground shook as waves of light burst from her body, wrapping the city in a shield of energy. The soldiers fired their weapons, but their bolts dissolved against the barrier. The commander shouted in fury, but his voice was drowned by the roar of her awakened power. The man stood firm beside her, his rifle ready, but he knew the truth. He was not the shield today. She was, and she was no longer a fragile child afraid of her own strength. She was something greater. The soldiers staggered, blinded by the brilliance of her light. Some dropped their weapons and fled. The commander tried to press forward, but the force of her energy pushed him back, slamming him into the ground. The girl's voice rang out, stronger than ever before. "I am not your curse. I am not your weapon. I am free." Her words echoed through the battlefield like thunder. The soldiers broke. One by one, they retreated to their ships, dragging their wounded with them. The sky cleared as the massive vessels lifted into the stars, vanishing into the endless dark. When silence finally returned, the girl collapsed against the man, exhausted but alive. He caught her in his arms, holding her tightly. "You did it," he whispered. "You controlled it. You saved us all." Her glowing eyes lifted weakly to his. "Because you stayed." He smiled, his chest heavy with pride and love. "Always. I will always stay." The city was forever changed. The neighbors who once whispered now looked at the girl with awe, not fear. Some called her a savior, others a miracle. To thee? Man, she was still just his daughter. Together, they stood at the edge of their small home, watching the sunrise. The sky glowed golden, first light of a new day washing over them. She slipped her small hand into his, her glowing eyes filled with peace for the first time in her life. "What happens now?" she asked softly. He looked out at the horizon, his voice steady. Now we begin again. A new life, a new story, a new beginning." And as the sun rose higher, the legend of the human who adopted the saddest alien girl was born. A legend that would echo across the stars for generations to come.